Okay, good afternoon. This is part 5, The Great Battle of Armageddon. And this topic is sort of the climax of the Bible. It's where God sent his son in the last days, warning them as the last prophet before desolations would come. Messiah says, all of these things shall come upon this generation. He warns the disciples, when you see these armies surrounding Jerusalem, that would be the time to flee Judea. See? Get out of there. They were going to flee out of the old covenant into the new covenant. And where were they going to go? They were going to flee up into the mountains of Judea and then migrate over to the where the 7 churches of Asia Minor were. Those churches had already been established. Paul had been ministering at the church of Ephesus for over 3 years and wrote an epistle to the Ephesians. That was a literal church mentioned in Revelation, the church at Ephesus, a literal church in Asia Minor. Those were 7 literal churches that were already established in the 1st century prior to the destruction of Jerusalem. See? There was a little window of time in there where there were 7 churches, and that's when this revelation of Jesus Christ was written to the 7 churches. See? What else was I going to mention here? And so you have this climactic scene, the great battle about ready to take place. And it takes place from 66 to 70 AD, and then the temple falls. Now, that's an interesting topic. I have another video on the 9th of Av, AD 70, the day the temple fell. In the context of Matthew 24, the second coming is what? Not one stone would be left standing upon another, right? Matthew 24:2. And the disciples ask him a rebound question from that statement. What do they ask him? Tell us, Lord, when's this going to happen? One of these temple stones going to fall. And Jesus says, no man knows the day or the hour. We know the exact day now that the temple fell. And we even know the hour. Josephus records the very hour that the Roman soldier threw the torch through the window of the temple. See? No man knows the day or the hour. The 9th of Av, AD 70, the day and hour that the temple fell. It's recorded in history. Because people say, oh, well, the Bible says no man knows the day or the hour. That's what Jesus said. But we do know, since Christ has already returned, we know the exact day and hour. And it was written down in history. Josephus recorded it for all time. Isn't that interesting? The works of Josephus are the second most prolific writings next to the Bible. Isn't that interesting? And this is a man that was actually in Jerusalem during this great battle of Armageddon. He wrote about everything that happened. He was there. He was an eyewitness. And he records chariots were seen in the skies over Jerusalem and over the temple. There were all kinds of supernatural things taking place at that time. You know? And it says every eye will see him. And that's a prophecy out of Zechariah 12. And every eye will see him, even those that pierced him. They would see this traumatic desolations that would come on their holy city and their temple. See, and God gave him all. He sent prophets to him. He sent his own son. They killed his son. And then he said, fill up the measure of your father's sins, because I'm going to come back. Blessed is he, and when they say that he will drink it again new in the kingdom, and blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. He was going to come back triumphant over his enemies, making them his footstool at his coming. This is the true gospel message. The true gospel message is Christ has returned victorious over his enemies in the generation he said he would. See? There was not to be a postponement or a delay of thousands of years like all these poor deluded futurists are struggling with. You know, they say things like, oh, if the Lord tarries another 1,000 years, blessed be the name of the Lord. What kind of God is that to serve? That God didn't do what he said he was going to do. See? Our God did exactly what he said he was going to do when he said he was going to do it. In the generation, in a very, very little while, he that will come and will not tarry. Micro, hoton, I think it is. He was not going to tarry thousands of years. See, shortly. Paul said the time is short. Don't even worry about getting married. See, the Lord is near. Is that a code word for thousands of years later? You see the dilemma these poor futures are in? They're struggling with this, and they're saying there's got to be a way out of this. These preterists can't be right. You know, I listened to a 10-part refutation by Perry Stone. You can see it on YouTube. Type in Perry Stone preterism. And on his 5th tape, he actually admits that Matthew 24 was fulfilled in the 1st century. He admits it. He says, you know, all of these things did happen back then. He gives away the farm. And then he backtracks a little and says, well, not everything, but at first he comes out and declares all of these things did happen. The army surrounded Jerusalem. The temple fell. They fled out of Judea. It all happened in that. But he says it's going to happen again. You see, he wants to play the movie again in our future, 2,000 years later. That's not what Jesus said. Jesus said it would be a time of trouble that has not been nor ever shall be again. Matthew 24:21. It's a one-time event in the 1st century. That generation would not pass, see? We don't have to play the movie again. So we're running out of time. I got about 1 more minute here, I think, to wrap up. This is part 5 of the Great Battle of Armageddon series. Man, this one, we may have to go another 5 more in this just to get this whole thing wrapped up. So I'm going to cut it off here. God bless you all. We'll see you on the next tape.